So Ann, I think you can begin our recording.
You're recording.
That's great. So this is the second meeting of the ad hoc committee to select a new town council clerk. And so we have Kimberly Williams on board, along with Frank Souza, Sean George, and myself, constituting the ad hoc committee. Kimberly is here by invitation, as is Ann Holmberg. So what we have done to this point, in our last meeting, we concluded that we should write a job description. And I had put together a draft description.
Hey, Fred?
Yes.
Yeah. I apologize. First, we have to approve. Do we have minutes to approve?
We don't have prepared minutes
Okay.
at this point.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning and reminding me, but we actually don't have them prepared at this point. So
No, that's
I
fine.
think we'll forego that.
Okay.
But we did. I did prepare a draft job description document, and I circulated that to all of you. And so I suppose we can begin there just to see if there are any comments that we should be aware of, any opinions you'd like to offer on the content of that, or any other element of it. Is there anything that comes to mind for anyone?
I'll say I reviewed it and it looked pretty comprehensive. And I think it covers all the critical points. And, you know, with any job description, you can also throw in there the catch, you know, and other things as assigned. But I didn't see anything of a critical nature that wasn't in that description that shouldn't give somebody a good picture of what the job entails.
Okay.
So that'd be my input.
I agree with Sean. I reviewed it both yesterday and today.
Okay.
And no, it is very inclusive and to the point. And I think that's what it needs to be.
Okay. Kimberly, I know that you also received it and I think had a chance to look at it. I don't know if anything occurs to you, or if it seems to be generally in good shape.
So I think generally it's in great shape. I do think we just need to add some elements about physical requirements. There are certain elements of a job description, so to make it in line with all of the job descriptions that we have for the organization, those things need to be included.
Okay. I certainly concur. And I'd also been looking just a short while ago. There is a job description online for the executive assistant to the new DPW director in town. And I like the format of it. I like the style. I like a lot of the language. It looks similar in terms of it. It uses a lot of bullet pointed items. As you know, I had taken those virtually verbatim from the suggested input that Ann had provided to us. And but I agree, Kimberly, and we would certainly defer to your experience and expertise in terms of, you know, fashioning this to conform to what the town generally puts forward, or certainly what is legally required or advisable for us. So I don't know if it's necessary, but I would certainly entertain any motion to approve the job description if you think that's appropriate to do.
So Kim, is there anything that we need to add from a legal perspective? Like, what I should have asked this question earlier. One of the things is, are we required to do any type of background check on an individual? And if we do we include that in the job description, or is that included in the application?
It's included in the application process that we have once they file. If you have me doing a process similar to the the town's process, which is something I'd want to learn this evening, how you want to proceed. We kind of spell out those things that need to be done for each position. And we also have online a hiring process kind of FAQ that is for all of the municipal positions that we kind of link that to, and it kind of answers some of the questions that people may have about getting a job here.
All right, I would second that motion, as long as we're not missing anything in the description from a legal perspective.
Nothing missing at all. As your committee chair, Councillor Chase, talked about, is if you look online, you'll see that how I fashioned some of our job descriptions. I try to add language that will attract high talent. So you will see that I try to craft a statement or something to gain more interest. So I'd ask you to take a look at those things. They're done purposefully to get high quality candidates to think of a municipality in a different way than they may have previously.
Well, good.
Okay.
Why don't we, I guess I would suggest a roll call vote. And I'll begin with you if I may, Sean.
Yes.
Okay, Frank,
Yes,
very good. Then I would say we have a unanimous vote to proceed with that job description, subject to, as Kim has pointed out, the appropriate tailoring that she thinks necessary to conform it with the town's customary practice and legal requirements. I think that's good. I think we're off to a good start. I did have a brief discussion with Kim following our last meeting, just to really help arrange this meeting. But Kim did indicate that there are a variety of sources or resources, I should say, that are available to the town that customarily the town relies upon. One of which being the Mass Municipal Association website or their job board, I'll call it. Which is something we had, we basically have been speculating that that's probably something we'd want to take advantage of. Maybe Kim, if you wouldn't mind, if you could care to take a minute to let us know what kinds of resources you think might be appropriate.
Sure. So we do take a look at kind of the needs of whatever the department leaders, in this case yourselves, or what you're kind of looking for. So the MMA is one resource that we use, but it is really specifically tailored to people who are already in municipal work looking for additional municipal work. But it leaves off a lot of really talented folks. So unless the job is something that only can be done if you've been in a municipality before, and there are very few of those roles, we do try to tailor our process much like a private sector company doing targeted advertisement. So I thought a little bit about this kind of role and wanted some feedback from you, what you thought was most important to you, because I would do that with each kind of department leader. Is it most important to you that they come from a municipal background? Then I know where to advertise. But if it's really that you want a strong administrative support person, then I might be looking at, of course, doing Indeed or Zip recruiters. I might use Handshake, which is another recruiting space that goes to colleges and universities that have particular kinds of programming around, say, being a paralegal, because some of your work requires that. So I might look for those. I might look for IAAP, which is our administrative professional kind of
resource. I might put something there because those are really strong or should be strong administrative support or executive assistant level. So I kind of want to know from you what is most important to you, that they come from government, or that they have strong administrative support skills.
Gentlemen, I'll leave it open to you if you'd care to start.
I think the skills are the most important part. You can come from government, you can come from private sector, but your level of skills is really what we're looking for, in my opinion. Okay, so that's how that is with me, and I have to go flip on my switch because my battery's going dead.
So I can give you a perspective of a former council president, and I appreciate the word former on that. I totally agree with Frank in regards to the skill set. I think what would be highly desirable is someone that has some experience with municipal government in regards to I'm just going to throw this out there, like, spitballing is like, in regards to meetings, protocol, and is critical in not only kind of putting, meetings together, but also understanding open meeting law, posting, as well as our rules and procedures. That I don't expect someone to come in knowing that day one, but having the ability to learn and understand that, so that that person can look at it from the top down. So, they're able to look at it from a presidential view of getting everything put together and execute the meeting, the committee meetings, but then also helping, counselors with constituency responses or, things of that nature. I'm not, and Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I'm naive to think that we're going to be able to go out and find a whole slew of candidates that has that type of experience. It's very unique. I think that's why I'd put it on the MMA. I don't necessarily think that's going, if we did it just with the MMA, I don't think we would get much of anything. You may get one. Love to get a diversity of candidates to take a look at. But I think if a person can prove that they have the capacity, they either have past experience or they have similar experience that gives them the ability to learn all of that fairly quickly, that would be, what I would gravitate towards in regards to a potential candidate. And then, you know what? You brought up an interesting point, Kim. A paralegal could, in my opinion, could absolutely take on this role and do very well, and then, doesn't have any municipal government experience. Or you could have someone that doesn't have any legal experience, but has a municipal government experience in regards to committee secretary and things like that. So there's a multitude of things out there.
I certainly agree with both of you. And I think that one of the points I think that you've made, Sean, is that we don't necessarily need to rely strictly on a pool of persons with former municipal experience. It would be a very limited number of candidates, as you point out. I agree. And what I think is that coming from the business community, I'm thinking that persons who have had an opportunity to work, let's say, in some capacity with a board of directors comes to mind. In other words, someone who has had the opportunity as, let's say, an executive assistant to prepare meeting packages, just as we know Anne has done so very well, and to be able to respond very professionally and promptly to kind of high-level people. Not that we're high-level people, but you understand. But persons who are certainly well along in their careers and know what they need to do, but they need the support of an executive assistant who can see matters through. So I would agree that we certainly should consider, business background. It would be wonderful, of course, if someone were to be very familiar with the open meeting law and a variety of other laws. That might be icing on the cake for us. I just don't know if that's going to happen. But you do mention specifically a paralegal, Sean, as a potential candidate. I had mentioned to Kim that the Mass Paralegal Association does maintain a job board of sorts. Been quite some time since I've had any opportunity or need to look at it, but potentially there is that resource out there. I know certainly from my own experience of having worked for 35 years as a paralegal in business law for law firms, and for most recently a very large, a Fortune 100 company, home office corporate legal department. I know that the person with those kinds of skills, no, I'm not a candidate, would certainly be able to, contend with, a council of 9 members, and interact with the town manager appropriately, et cetera, et cetera. I think they'd have a lot of those skills. I think that we're open to, in my view, any source that's going to, give us persons qualified in that regard.
I'd also add to that as well, that they have to be thick-skinned because they'll be dealing with the public. And I think,
Yeah.
and I mean, I say that it sounds like a joke, and it is in a way, but I would say the vast majority of times that Ann is dealing with the public is when they have an issue, and people don't usually get on the phone with an issue and have a sunny disposition. So, that does come with the territory. And not to say that every time the phone rings, she has to be prepared for someone who's loaded for bear, but they have to be able to, handle that situation, get the relevant information. We don't expect anyone, in that position to make any type of decision, but be able to, convey it and then move on to the next thing. Because I can only imagine some of the things that Ann has had to deal with over the years that could really have taken her off the tracks. And I've never seen her get to that point. So that would be the other part of the equation too. But again, all of these parts of the equation, I don't think anyone on the call right now thinks we're going to hit all those boxes, but at least when they come to it, they have the experience, but they also have an understanding that if they don't have a lot of experience somewhere, they can talk us through it on how they can, get up to speed on that, which I think I've seen a lot of people come in to positions when I was a hiring manager that had the foundation, but was really able to get rolling very quickly, get over a lot of humps, be a self-starter, not be afraid, to ask questions and things of that nature. So, that to me would be where I would gravitate towards a candidate in that respect. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wonderful. I think you're spot on in thinking about it. You all are a group of executives, and that's how we kind of present it. I know that's not how, but you are. And so it's incumbent upon us to find someone who is used to dealing with a larger group of individuals and supporting them in a way. So we will kind of cast a broad net to try to see the best candidates. That's the process that we do for all the positions. It's a little bit different than has been done in the past, and sometimes people bristle, but we have gotten excellent results from doing things that way.
Well, I think we're all in agreement on those points, and I appreciate your input and your experience in that regard, Kim. That's extremely helpful to us. Now, if we're able to talk about other matters, there is, of course, there are a number of issues relating to the actual presentation of candidates and the evaluation of their skills, et cetera. And, I don't know if we're jumping too far ahead, but it's something that I think ultimately, Kim, we would hope to, defer to you for guidance in terms of just how the process moves, moves forward, and what are our responsibilities, as we begin to interact with candidates. Do you have any initial thoughts on that?
I do. So the town, we have a pretty comprehensive hiring process that we put into place. So here we do a blind screen process. So applicants will submit all of their information online or through HR to HR, and the process kind of begins. Our HR generalist, who has a master's degree in human resource management, will screen those applications. They will make phone calls. We sometimes have recorded screens that we will ask particular questions, same questions of the candidates, and they will answer those. And then we go through, or she will go through those things and kind of rank candidates, making sure that they meet minimum qualifications, making sure that the presentation materials, if they follow the directions and those things. So we have a list of criteria that we go through for first pass and screen. She then blinds all of those resumes and sends them forward to myself and the hiring managers, which in this case would be you. Not everyone that comes forward is then interviewed. What we then do is kind of go through a selection process, and we will pick a percentage of those candidates for interview. Throughout that interview, we ask I use a called an interview matrix, and I ask particular questions that will kind of give us a better idea about the person's skills and abilities, but also some behavioral traits that they will bring. We usually do 2 rounds of interviews because on the first interview, you can have someone who does really well or terribly or somewhere in between. But then we probe again in a second interview of a few less candidates and kind of glean who the final candidate should be, and whether or not you choose to bring. I'm not sure if you all are going to choose the final candidate, or if the full committee or the full board. I'm unclear how you want to proceed with that.
So, Fred, do you want me to kind of encapsulate what I said last meeting?
Yes,
So,
please.
so Kim, this is what we thought. So after we put out the job description and we get resumes, to the point, we didn't think it would be fruitful to have every counselor involved in this process. It's just unruly. It doesn't work well. So ultimately, what I had proposed for consideration is this: we get a pool of resumes that that meet the minimum qualifications. My proposal was to have Matt, Fred as the committee chair, maybe one other counselor, and Ann actually agreed to be kind of the 3 or 4 people that would actually go through the interview process with our candidates. I hate saying viable, but it's not the word I'm looking for, but to go down there and almost get it to the point where they would collectively come up with, maybe 2 leading candidates, maybe a second round. It could be, I'd probably potentially keep it the same people. It may not need a second round, but anyway, out of that group, out of our committee, we would present the candidate that we feel is best for the job, probably an executive session, to the entire town council. And at that meeting, we either decide yay or nay to move forward with an offer. It's a little, I mean, we've got to get counselors grounded that, they may want to reach out to that person, but we just can't do that. It does not, look, I've been involved both on the giving end and receiving end of what I call speed interviewing, and it's terrible. And it's, it does not work. It doesn't work for the candidate. It doesn't work for the people involved. So I think we can, I mean, we'll also obviously have buy-in from the council in the process, but going on that assumption, if they agree to it, and then the council says yay, and then the offer goes out. If the candidate accepts, then we move forward with the process of bringing them on board. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Frank?
Right. I know Ann is part-time, and there's been some conversation about this position going full-time. My mind is that what we're planning on? What process we have to go through to change it from part-time to full-time? Because we both know that there's going to be an increase in income. Is this what we're looking at for this position?
Personally, Frank, I've hunted around, right? Similar positions are all full-time. I don't think I've found
Right.
a part-time position. And Kim sent me some information on a salary survey. So Frank, to your point, one of the things that we need to land on as well from a budgetary perspective is what's going to be the range. I mean, I think for me personally, just, anywhere from 50 to 65, it's going to be depending on qualifications. But I think I haven't had anyone come to me and say it should stay part-time and work more than her hours anyway. So I think, yeah, to get a valuable candidate, I think it needs to be a full-time position.
I guess my question was, what do we need to do to convert this from part-time to full-time before the application request is out there?
Good question.
Kim,
is there any?
We can't put the application out and say it's full-time and we don't have authorization to offer it that.
That's right. And just for clarification, I think that in my drafting of the description, I think I did describe that as a full-time position.
Yeah.
Really kind of, in hopes that frankly, that was an accurate description, given what I would expect the town's expectations to be for this role. Now, I don't know, Kim, if you have anything more on that point.
Yeah, so I would certainly suggest that it is full-time, in that you allow us to handle it through our ordinary process. If we were going to, much like we gave Ms. Holmberg increases based on she is an employee, that we would do the same thing for this position, that we have a range. This position was ranked when it went through our compensation and classification study some time ago. It was ranked at a particular grade, and we have that range. So as to not hamper our ability to negotiate for the best talent, that we give the range for that individual. And then if you have, dependent on qualifications, as we see through the process and we could settle on the final entry amount. Because you have someone that comes in, say if there's a paralegal and they have certain years of experience, to expect them to come in at step one of the salary range, we would not be able to obtain that talent. Someone who's probably coming from the municipal world, who has been a clerk for someone, you may get closer to the middle of the range. But I think we can handle that internally.
Yeah, I think the only thing we have to be careful of, we don't want to outprice the role, but we need to have wiggle room so that a person comes in, they don't come in at the top of the range. And then after a year, we're going through, okay, now we have to, at a particular point, if someone's in the role long enough, that budget number does have to come up. But I don't think you want that budget number to come up after the first year, because the person that we brought in, I'm just throwing a number, we set a cap at 65, comes in at 64.5. And now, we have to go through that in order to increase it from there.
Yeah, we almost never do. What we do is set the range so that people can see growth potential.
Right.
But
And if-
we're pretty stringent in how we negotiate with candidates coming in.
If I could just point out the fact that, again, looking at the administrative assistant position that we're currently seeking to fill for the DPW director, it's described as a step 12, I'll call it. It does give a salary range for that position on the website. It describes it between 54,000 and change and 71,000 and change. So the range is very specific. It's set. I don't know if I guess my expectation is that this position probably would call for many of the same skill sets and aggregate experience that we're looking for in terms of the executive assistant for the DPW director. Obviously, there are going to be very, very sharp distinctions in some particular skills or another, but we're here again looking for a fair amount of really on-point experience in particular areas. And looking at this particular job description, I think that it is fairly specific. It seems to me the best candidate for that job is likely to come from, in my opinion, a municipal background. But nonetheless, that's where it is for that job, and that's how the salary range is publicly disclosed.
So we're required to generally disclose the range, and it's best practice. People need to know what they're coming in on. That position that's 12 steps to get from the first range of the 54 to the 71. So we put that in so they could see that's a 12-year progression in salary to get there. And we do ask them to submit their salary expectation. For this particular role, they probably will not come from the municipal world. It's written again to solicit the particular types of talent, and if it's found in the municipal world, great. That's a plus, but not a necessity. This person that comes in will probably have much more private sector experience working in a consulting firm, an engineering firm, or something of the like, or supporting an executive in different places. That's what this role will likely garner.
That's interesting. So each of the roles that we're speaking about are likely to solicit the best candidates from private sector jobs.
Yeah, I think that the overall mission or task that Mr. Dutton had set out is that we, given the resources for all municipalities is so constrained, and so much of the work that we have to do, it's a lot for a little resource. We have to find the best talent. And if you'll know, your former council clerk did not come from the municipal world. So we know that what we've done works. We certainly don't discount municipal experience, but it's not a requirement. What's a requirement is that you come in with certain skills, knowledge, and abilities to perform particular tasks to enhance the work of whomever you're working for. Those are the key things, rather than whether or not you come from another town. Sometimes that can be a detriment So we're cognizant of trying to find the best talent. That's the overall mission.
Kim, do you think that at this point, then in the process, the next step is, for example, you're tailoring some of the language of the job description, you're making it conform with what we customarily circulate, and then also to simply go right to the step of posting this where you think appropriate?
Yeah, I think I have a lot to work with. As I said, if you take a look at some of the language that I have for other positions, I generally try to put things out. One of our overarching kind of messages here is this person is going to be a part of a team, your team, the town of Bridgewater's team, and a lot of the language that you'll see that I use is gearing towards that, and then talk about their key responsibilities and the like. So if you're comfortable with me doing that, I'm happy to just do some minor modifications and get going to try to find you someone.
I have no issue with that.
I would agree.
I agree with that.
That's great. We welcome that that assistance, certainly, Kim. Are there other issues we think we need to touch upon tonight? I was otherwise going to simply ask, since she's still online, if Ann has any further comments that she wants to pass along to us. It certainly appears there's no member of the public here but for Ann, and there's no more important member of the public for purposes of this discussion than Ann. So Ann, you are welcome to.
Fred, before we move to Ann, she doesn't have to speak. Are you going to be on the next town council agenda? Are you on the agenda for this specific discussion? And if not, it should be, because we brought it up just under discussions so people were aware. But I think now we need this to be on so that we can talk through not only what we're working on, but to vet the entire interview and hiring process so that everyone's on board and we have our quote unquote marching orders.
That's right. And to answer that, Sean, what I would anticipate at this point is that, for example, at our upcoming meeting on Tuesday, I would suggest just providing a very brief committee report to reinforce that we are actively involved in pursuit of a candidate. And I think I would make a suggestion that for our meeting on the 29th, an agenda item would be suitable, such as you've indicated, probably in the form of a discussion, so that we can solicit a little more input from our colleagues before going forward. Does that sound appropriate to you both?
Sounds good to me.
Yep, sounds good. Gotta
Okay, good.
get it in there and
I think that'll cover the basis of letting everyone know that we're very active and relying upon all the resources available through the
right.
town.
I think that's important that we do that. Let them know that it's not only the 3-member committee that's working on it, but we're getting assistance from HR and putting this together. So give them a little more confidence in this whole process.
I would agree. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just not on our shoulders. I would be very
Right.
skittish if it was just us. Kim, we're going to bring you down with us, so just be prepared.
You won't go down. I won't let you go down. I do need to ask you a question. Perhaps you can think on it. So now we'll start. We generally post our positions they're open until filled, and I kind of need to know your thoughts on that. Part of the process is we don't like to extend things out if we find a really good candidate. We want to kind of get them in and interview and move the process along. So I kind of need to know your thoughts on that.
Right.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I think by setting a date for the period of time, it gives those people who are thinking about it, they're saying, well, if I'm thinking about it, then I have to get myself motivated and I have to move and take action. But if it's open-ended, maybe I can just drag my feet a little bit and see what's happening, and maybe down the road, throw my hat in the ring. Okay, and I think we're trying to get some good candidates up front. We don't want to drag this on for months, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So
So-
Kim, from your experience, is 21 days a good posting timeline, or 30? Let's call it 30 days.
30
21 days is kind of, so a 30-day posting.
That's a long posting time.
Is it?
In
Okay.
this market. I mean, the way that we are advertising is such that people generally have their resumes already online.
Mhm.
Okay.
So they are submitting them then. So I don't know if you use LinkedIn and you'll see a new posting that comes up that matches your skill set. And then it
Yep.
will tell you 12 people have applied, but it's only been online for a day.
Okay. I mean,
People are generally
Mhm.
yeah.
motivated folks who are looking to move
Yep.
are moving, and what you don't want is for another place to keep, grab good talent. So that's why I guess why our process is we start reviewing resumes as soon as they come in,
Oh,
but we're
yeah.
here. So
14 days.
yes, but I would say in 14 days we'll start interviewing. And we do position, because in those pools, you might not find the candidate that you're looking for. It's rare,
Right.
but it does happen. And you don't want to be in a situation where you settle for someone
Right.
because they came in the pool. It's a little different than some places do, but we found great success in doing that. Sometimes you find the candidate right away. And sometimes, much like with Miss Homework, she came in when she was moving to her next role, she came later in the process.
So would it be advantageous internally? We set a deadline, but in the posting we don't.
Yes.
We don't set a deadline, because then, kind of to Frank's point, that in itself shows if a person is I hate to go-getter or self-starter or things like that. So I get now. I think I appreciate the question even more than putting a deadline on the posting. It's, from my perspective, whomever's going to be in the review process, once they go through what the screening that we've decided, I mean, it picks up day one and then just keep going.
Yes, we start screening right away.
And then again, from a goal perspective, I'm a big fan of 3. And if you have 3 finalists and you pick one and you can't come to an agreement with the first finalist, then you have the second finalist go through the negotiations, 2 or 3 or things like that. Because I think it was brought up earlier, and I've been the recipient of that, where I've extended an offer to someone I'm very excited. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they position it somewhere else. And early on, letting other people know too soon, thank you, but no thank you. And then all of a sudden my leading candidate's gone, and now I'm kind of back to square one, because I'm not going to go back to someone who I said no thank you and say, well, I've reconsidered. That's not a good experience either.
We don't do no thank yous unless we are reasonably assured they are not going to be part of the process. If they
Right.
don't make it past first screen for
Yeah.
whatever reason, those are no thank yous that we'd
Yeah.
send. But until the posting is not even pulled down until we have a signed
Okay.
letter of offer.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
and just so you're thinking about questioning, we use an interview matrix where we collect all of the questions, and we have some kind of questioning that is designed to glean the most information about candidates. I know you all know about certain questionings that you cannot ask individuals, which is the reason why I generally lead that the questioning because I've gotten information from all of the candidates and I'm able to build a rapport with the individual so that you can observe and hear some of the questioning that's going on, to see if it kind of aligns with some of the things that we're seeing. We also do a behavioral assessment. We call it predictive indexing, which will give us more information about this candidate, both on what they tell us, who they are, and who we can expect them to show up as work as. So I will be sending out a survey to each of you, and I just ask you to take the 5 minutes to complete it because it'll help me develop a picture. So when we're looking at candidates, kind of that I meet your expectations for what you're saying, but also what you're kind of thinking.
I know
I think it's
PI very well.
very beneficial for us probably, Kim, that that kind of predictive modeling isn't applied to candidates for election. So we dodged a bullet there. That's good. Okay. No, that makes perfect
Or for
sense.
finding a spouse, I'd be alone for the rest of my life. But anyway. Oy.
Well, I think we'd be very eager to see that and participate in that. And I think that would be very, very helpful. Are there any other, I was hoping to return to Anne if unless there are any other questions we think we should address first. Hearing none,
No.
I'll suggest, Anne, if you're available, please feel free to join us.
Still here.
Good to see you again.
Thanks. Thank you for asking. I actually have no questions about the process. It's really certainly outside of what would be appropriate for me. The job description looked great. The only question that I had for you is I just wanted to clarify what you want on your town council agenda. I emailed with Josh this morning and told him that I thought you were going to have something for the agenda on the 8th. But I think now what you're saying is you want to give a quick committee report and then maybe a more depth discussion on the 29th. Did I get that right?
That is my suggestion. And again, unless anyone cares to change their opinion on that, I think that was the consensus that we reached. We'll do a committee report, a very brief, high level, just a few minutes to talk about it. And then on the 29th, we'll have a more substantive, something in the form, I think, of a discussion so that we can solicit more input from the council members.
Okay. Okay. So do you want a bullet item under committee reports or do you just want to discuss it when the topic comes up?
I'd be perfectly comfortable with a bullet point for that.
Okay.
Just to serve as a reminder for me. And no, I think so. Just to again, and I think Frank touched upon this. We want to be sure that our colleagues know that we're giving this prompt attention and our full consideration to move it along very quickly. So I would appreciate that.
Okay. Yep, that was my only real question or comment. And I'm happy to help out, like I said, any way that you need.
Well, that
Appreciate
is
that.
wonderful. As always, we thank you, Anne. That's much appreciated.
Sure.
Are there any final comments from the council members? No, nothing. I would
No, I'm all set.
entertain a motion if anyone cares to make one.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, I make that unanimous. And on behalf of the committee, Kim,
Paul.
we thank you very much for all your valuable input and ongoing assistance. And we look forward to touching base with you in short order to move it along further. Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone.
Okay.
Everyone have a good
Take
night.
care. Have a good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.